Hey everybody, this is Tom from VermiBag. So what do you do with all your coffee grounds? I mean, coffee grounds are probably one of the most common things that you can actually get to put in your vermicomposting systems. I mean, they're readily available. You go down to a Starbucks, some local coffee shop, or your work, like I do. I actually just get all my coffee grounds from work. And this is just 1 week at work. I have about 4 gallons here probably of coffee grounds. So I've never had really good luck putting coffee grounds directly into any of my bins. I mean, the worms will definitely eat it, but it isn't like they love it, at least in my bins I haven't. So what I always do is I mix my coffee grounds directly into the moist bedding that I make. And I've had just outstanding success with that because as you throw the coffee grounds into these systems, there's about 2% nitrogen in coffee grounds, like that spent coffee grounds. And they're not acidic. If anybody tells you they're acidic, they're not. The coffee you drink is actually acidic, but once you have spent grounds, they're actually pretty much a pH neutral. So by placing them into the bins or into the bedding that I have, you're not going to affect the pH of that bedding at all, but you're also going to add about 2% of nitrogen into it to help get the system really kick-started and start decomposing in these systems. So what I'm going to do is take all these coffee grounds that I have here. I have 3 about 8-gallon buckets here. I'm going to go ahead and dump them into a larger container here and mix it all up because one of these buckets is running a little bit wet. This particular bucket is pretty moist, so I can smell it actually on the bottom. So by dumping it into this large bucket, I can mix this whole system up again, add the coffee grounds in it. If I need to add a little bit more white paper or coconut coir or whatever I happen to want in it to bring it to that proper moisture, if I can store it in these 8-gallon buckets, I will. Zoom in, I'll dump the stuff in here, we'll add all these coffee grounds in there. So each of these containers of bedding, are made up slightly different. Some of them have a lot of cardboard pieces in them, and some of them don't have quite as many. Now even this bag, this bucket that I thought was actually fairly dry, at the very bottom it's actually pretty moist, and I can smell it just a little bit. That's trying to sour a little bit on me. So it's a good one to mix it around. We'll probably add a little bit more paper to that to dry it out. I'm just going to start adding coffee grounds to these in layers, kind of. And all the filters and everything else can go right in there too, no problem. Until a couple people at work throw some of their vegetable scraps in here too. I got a banana here. I'll pull it out right now because I don't want it smelling inside my bedding as it's decomposing. I'm going to go ahead and mix this little bit of coffee I got in with this first bucket, just a little ways, before I add the second bucket in here. And you see I put these coffee pods in here. I get a lot of these small pods too. So if I see them here, I know they'll go through the pod eventually and break the fabric or the paper that's on it, but if I see them, I just bust them open a little bit. Just speeds things along a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the next bucket. I'm going to grab the wet one that I know is wet. And again, the very bottom of this, you can see I can wring water out of this. So this system, or this bucket, with bedding was definitely too wet. So, like that, and go ahead and add some coffee to that. Now, since I know this is too wet, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of paper to it right now as well. This is a really highly shredded, a micro shred that we have at work. We throw all this stuff away, so I grab it out of the dumpster and go ahead and reuse it. This works really nice because it decomposes really fast. You're probably not going to have access to a shredder that shreds it as well as that, but the coarser shredded stuff will work just fine. I have this available, so I go ahead and I use it. That should absorb some of that moisture in the pod that we have in there. It's probably still just a little bit too moist, but I want to add this other container in here, mix it up, and add the last little bit of coffee grounds I have. So here's the last bucket. And it's really moist on the bottom as well. So I'm actually going to add more paper. Add those last coffee grounds that I have to this. Mix it up just a tiny little bit, and then I'll transfer it back into those buckets. And the nice thing about having coffee grounds in your bedding too is, it's your bedding is what you're using to cover up your feedings. And the coffee actually acts as a deodorant. It'll kind of mask a lot of the smells that might be coming out of the system. So, and while this stuff is sitting in here for another, anywhere from a week to a month or a month and a half, 2 months, however long that you let it sit inside your buckets here before you start using it, this coffee is decomposing and just making this bedding even better. So it's mixed up pretty good. I'll continue to mix it up as I go back down through it. I'm going to transfer all this into those 3 buckets again. And so I won't bore you with that, but I'll get it all transferred in and mix it up as I'm putting it in there. So this is what I ended up with, 3 8-gallon buckets that are, 2 of them are full, the other one's most of the way full. But moisture content seems pretty good. I did put just a little bit of white paper, that shredded white paper at the bottom of each one of these just to absorb some of the moisture as it goes down through. Now next week when I get another 4 gallons or 5 gallons of coffee, I may actually add a little bit more to these. I'll probably do it the same way. I'll throw it into the big bin and put it back in. It's a little bit of effort, but it's not too bad. You could just throw the coffee grounds in each one of these individually and mix them up, but I'm trying to get these at the proper moisture level because I tended to make them a little bit too wet when I made them. But it's a really good way of getting rid of the coffee. And again, the benefit is that coffee is going to be decomposing while it's sitting in this bedding, just making this bedding even better. It's actually going to add a little bit of nitrogen to each of your systems and also act as a little bit of a deodorant per se when you put this bedding on top. The coffee always has that smell to it. So there's a lot of added benefits to adding coffee into the bedding like this. And I think you can add a lot more of it versus if you were adding coffee directly into a bin, a big pile of coffee. Try adding 4 pounds of coffee into a pile and see what happens. Probably won't be good. But so 4 pounds of coffee mixed over 24 gallons of material, that's really not that much coffee in here. So again, I'll probably add a little bit more, at least to each of the individual buckets. Maybe another pound of coffee in each one of them at least. But I'm going through these too, so I'm going to end up making some more coffee and I'll do the same thing with that. So all that coffee you guys get, this is a great way of using it all up. And you don't have to worry about adding too much coffee into your bin and heating up and stuff because of a big pile. If you have a Starbucks or a coffee place nearby, get all the coffee you can. Mix it in with your bedding and just let it store in these buckets. And your worms are going to love you. This is Tom from VermiBag. Until next time, ciao.